Sequels, prequels, spin-offs, and classic remakes have become defining pillars of contemporary cinema. With every new season, the same debate resurfaces. Is this a legitimate creative evolution, or a symptom of artistic exhaustion? Will 2026 finally offer a definitive answer to that question? Probably not, but it may bring the conversation closer to a meaningful turning point. At the center of that discussion stands a sequel once thought impossible, The Devil Wears Prada 2. Arriving 20 years after the original film, the sequel reunites director David Franco with its iconic lead cast, including Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway. A similar logic drives the continued expansion of The Hunger Games. Originally released between 2009 and 2015, the franchise later found renewed momentum through prequels, exploring the origins of the games and the foundations of its most iconic figures. That revival began in 2023 with The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and continues in 2026 with The Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping. Given the franchise's enduring popularity, this release ranks among the year's most anticipated. And if it succeeds, it is unlikely to represent a final chapter. Perhaps the most consequential continuation arrives with Dune Part 3. The film concludes the trilogy Denis Villeneuve envisioned from the outset, yet within Hollywood's current framework, few expect this conclusion to mark the end of the universe itself. Frank Herbert's literary world extends far beyond the boundaries Villeneuve set for his trilogy. Several other recognizable titles are also set to return in 2026, including Scream 7, Scary Movie 6, and Mortal Kombat 2. And after 7 years away from the big screen, Star Wars makes its return to theaters this summer with The Mandalorian and Grogu. But the releases that warrant closer scrutiny lie within animation, a sector whose commercial and cultural weight has become impossible to ignore. Toy Story 5 and the Super Mario Galaxy arrive under conditions that have shifted dramatically in a short span of time. Only months ago, both films were viewed primarily as reliable crowd pleasers built on global familiarity. Then came the 2025 box office. Animated features such as Neja 2 and Zootopia 2, alongside the live-action Lilo and Stitch, ranked among the 5 highest-grossing films of the year, outperforming major releases like F1, the movie Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, and One Battle After Another by a wide margin. As a result, Toy Story 5 is no longer just another sequel. It now stands as a potential test, a measure of whether this shift signals a deeper change in audience priorities or merely a recalibration in what blockbuster success looks like. Either way, 2026 may be the year that answer finally begins to take shape. Superhero films have dominated global cinema since the early 2000s. From Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy to Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight and ultimately the rise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the genre came to define an entire era. That dominance reached its peak in 2019 with Avengers Endgame. Since then, audience interest has noticeably declined. It was a result of saturation and a prolonged absence of meaningful innovation. In 2025, the genre showed signs of recovery. Now, 2026 stands as a decisive year. Midway through the year, Marvel and DC find themselves in direct competition. And Marvel looks to its past, drawing on nearly 2 decades of accumulated popularity through Avengers, Doomsday, and Spider-Man: Brand New Day, uniting current heroes while reintroducing familiar faces. DC, on the other hand, looks ahead. Following the launch of its new cinematic universe with Superman, the studio continues to shape its future through Supergirl and Clayface, testing whether audiences are willing to invest in a rebuilt continuity, one that asks viewers to move beyond both the successes and failures of the past. While Marvel may appear favored due to the sheer scale of its project, the fundamental challenge facing both studios remains the same: proving their capacity for renewal, sustaining audience loyalty, and building a new generation capable of carrying these cinematic universes forward for decades to come. For that reason, the 2026 season may represent either the beginning of a new phase for superhero cinema, or a clear signal that the era of its dominance is approaching its end. This is only part of the picture. Why 2026 could change Hollywood forever. Wait for the next screen. Thanks for watching. See you soon.